Shabbat Shalom. Happy Sabbath. This morning we want to look at the sovereign Yahshua, the wisdom of the sovereign Yahshua. We're told that the wisest man that ever lived is King Solomon, or Melech Shlomo, said to be the wisest man. But we also are told that there is one wiser than Solomon. So turn with me this morning to the book of Melakin, that's 1 Kings chapter 3. And we would like to read from the first verse. And Shlomo joined in marriage with Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and took the daughter of Pharaoh and brought her to the city of David until he had completed the building his own house and the house of Yahweh and the wall all around Jerusalem. Only the people slaughtered at the high places, for a house for the name of Yahweh had not been built until these days. And Solomon loved Yahweh, walking in the laws of his father David, except that he slaughtered and burned incense at the high places. And the sovereign went to Gibeon to slaughter there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. He was lavish in his offering. And the word here says in verse 5, at Gibeon, Yahweh appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and Elohim said, ask what I should give you. Just conceive that thought for a while, that you were Solomon, and Yah appeared to you and asked you, name whatever you want and I will give it to you. What would you conceive in your thought? What would you ask for? He's a young man. At this particular point of his development, he is perhaps no more than 20 years old. He's on the throne, and he's dealing with a nation that is full of tension. And he wants to bring the nation together under Yah. And Yah comes to him and said, what would you like? You kind of get the impression that he was not from North America, because he doesn't want the American dream. He doesn't want that. It's not asking for money. The man who has everything, the earth is his, comes to you and asks you, name what you want. Just name it. And Solomon said, you have shown great kindness to your servant David, my father, and he walked before you in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with you, and you have guarded for him this great kindness and gave him a son to sit on his throne as is this day. Did you see the appreciation here? The gratefulness? And now, O Yahweh, my Elohim, you have appointed your servant to reign instead of my father, David. But I am a little child. I do not know how to go out or to come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted, shall you then give to your servant an understanding heart to rule your people, to discern between the good and the evil? For who is able to rule this great people of yours? Of all the things that he could have chosen, Solomon says, give me an understanding heart. Give that to me. These are your people, and I need to have the skills. I need to have that kind of metaphysical intuition. I need that in order to ascertain what is good and what is not good. I need that. So give it to me. You see, when I was a young man, 16, and enrolled as an apprentice engineer, we used to talk about the coefficient of expansion, meaning that this is the ratio that measures the degree to which the metal expands or contracts when heat is added to it, when the temperature changes. So this morning we really want to look at the expansity. We come to church or assembly each week, and we leave invariably, but what is it that we have learned in our attendance each week? How is it that you have expanded in your knowledge of truth? Or have you contracted over time? How? So let's look at the expansity, the coefficient of it in terms of what we have learned. Solomon says, give me understanding. Now, when we come to the assembly or when we go to college, we get knowledge. Knowledge always comes first. Knowledge comes first. But what good is knowledge if you don't understand it? So when we talk about knowledge, we're talking about information. We collect information, whether that's biblical or otherwise. We collect information in our daily life cycle. Solomon says, give me understanding. Give me comprehension of the knowledge that I have. That's what he's asking for. My father has left me, this is Solomon, much information about governance. But I'm a youth. I need a comprehension of that. I need comprehension. Then the prince of all of them is wisdom. Wisdom is about application. When you have the wisdom, you will know how to apply the knowledge that you have gained because you understand it. And so that's what Yah gave to this king. He said, there will be none like you, and there will be none after you, except the one who comes, who is greater than you, and that's Yahshua. That's our subject today. That is our subject. Yahshua, the wisdom of the sovereign Yahshua. And so come with me to the book of Matthew. Matthew, and we're going to look at chapter 13. Matthew chapter 13. Here we see Yahshua talking to his Talmudim, his disciples. He's talking to his disciples. Now, a disciple is really one who follows a teacher. It's really not a theological term. It is an academic term that, it's like Plato was a disciple of Socrates, even as Aristotle was a student of Plato. And so a student or a disciple is one who follows the teachings of the teacher. We're students. And so we can examine ourselves today, even as we look into the word and see how closely we have followed our teacher. That's the issue here. Matthew chapter 13, and the word says, "And on that day, Yahshua went out of the house and sat by the sea, and large crowds were gathered together to him, so that he went into a boat and sat down, and all the crowd stood on the beach. And he spoke to them much in parables, saying, See, the sower went forth to sow, and as he sowed, some indeed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them." It's a large crowd. And he's speaking to them in what we call parabolic language, meaning not everybody understood what he was saying. And it became, a little bit confusing. If somebody's speaking and you don't understand, you would ask yourself, well, why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? And let's assume that you were part of a body of people. Let's say people from Europe. And I was speaking to you, and I wanted to conceal some of what I was saying, some of the truth I was giving to you. And so perhaps I would speak to you in what I would call parabolic language. You would instinctively pick up on what I'm saying, but the man from Europe would say, Elder, what is he saying? Could you elucidate on that for me? And that's what Yahshua is here doing. If I were to say to you, for example, fire there mus still, but him think a cool breeze, the European man would not understand that. But you would understand what I'm saying. Danger lurks. Danger lurks. And the danger here in context of what I'm saying is that there is a fire, a leak of fire coming, but the average man on the street doesn't seem to understand that. But you, in parabolic language, you would understand what I'm saying. So the disciples came to Yahshua, and they said to him, why are you speaking like that? Why? Why are you speaking to the people in parables? Verse 10, and the Talmudim came and said to him, why do you speak to them in parables? And he answering said to them, because it has been given to you to know the secrets of the reign of the Shemaim. It has been given to you, my disciples, to know the secrets of the kingdom, but not to them. It has not been given. He said, I'm not speaking to the multitudes. I'm not speaking to those in mainstream. I'm speaking to you, my disciples. What's the difference? The multitude doesn't have the same commitment. It hasn't cost them anything. But you, my disciples, Matthew, you were a tax collector. You had your accountancy business, and you left that, and you have come to worship me. Matthew, Kepha, Jacob, and Yohanan, Peter, James, and John, you were all fishermen. You had your fishing business, and you left that, and you have come to worship me. Peter had said on one occasion, we have left all, and we have come. That's what a disciple does. He commits himself. He follows his teacher. He said, I must make that clinical distinction between you and the multitudes. A student, when they go to college, they pay a fee, don't they? But you have the multitude who has this entitlement. Oh, I'll get it free. No. When David was looking for a place to build the temple, they offered it to him. He said, no, give me the price. He said, if it's for Yah, let it cost me something. How many people you hear will not worship on a Sabbath because it's inconvenient, stealing time? So he said, I'm here to teach you, my disciples, because the multitude don't have that commitment. He says, for whosoever possesses, to him more shall be given. If you have an interest, he said, I'll give you more interest. I will give you more interest in the word. More shall be given to you. You will have it overflowingly, but whosoever does not possess, even that which he has, shall be taken away. So he's not speaking to the multitudes. Most people who go to church each week, they come home and they don't comprehend what they've heard. It's information, but they don't comprehend it, and they don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to apply. Solomon says, give me understanding. Give it to me. Because there is no virtue in having all this knowledge and you don't understand. Let me make the point. Come with me to Matthew 24, and we will read verse 36. Matthew 24 and verse 36. They were asking him, well, let's read verse 35. It says, the Shemahim and the earth shall pass away, but my word shall by no means pass away. But concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the Shemahim, the heaven, but my Father only. They wanted to know when he's coming back. And he said, no man knoweth the day nor the hour. No man. And so preachers read this and teachers look at this, and throughout time, using their lecterns, they tell the people, no man knoweth when he's coming back. They have the information, but not the comprehension of what he's saying. What then is he saying? He's telling them when he's coming back. This is the Hebrew idiom, meaning no man knoweth the new moon. No man knoweth when the new moon is coming. And the reference here, the new moon reference, is the first day of the 7th month of Tishri. That is the Feast of Trumpets. He said, no man know when the new moon is coming. And so he's pointing them to the Feast of Trumpets. And he's saying, no man knoweth that day. Now, watch the dilemma and the confusion that exists. Most believers, most people who call themselves Christian, they're waiting for this day. And they will cite 1 Thessalonians 4 and verse 17. Because everybody knows that Yahshua himself will come with a shout and with the voice of the archangel. And when he shouts, the dead in Yahshua will rise first, and those who are alive will be caught up to meet him in the air. That's the information he gives. We ought to beg, like Solomon, for the comprehension. What is he saying? The first day of the 7th month, the Feast of Trumpet, is a Sabbath. It's an annual Sabbath. Whether it falls on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, it is a Sabbath. And it is no less sacred than the 7th-day Sabbath. We've got to understand that. So when he says, no man knoweth the day of the new moon on the 7th month, the first day of the 7th month, and we link that with 1 Thessalonians 4 and verse 17, he's saying, I'm coming back in the season of tabernacle. What's the dilemma then? The dilemma is that most of the multitude, the churches, they don't keep this. They do not keep the Feast of Trumpets. They do not keep the Feast of Yom Teruah. So when he comes back in the Feast of Trumpets, most people are going to be at work, at school, at play, shopping, doing what, because it's a Sabbath that they don't keep. Are you with me? They do not keep that. Who is here speaking? Yeah. And he is king, and his word is law. There is no appellate court to which you may appeal against him. His word is law. But the church, his body, is the head, and the body is saying, we're not going to keep it. So when you measure the ratio of the coefficients of the expansion of the information given to the church and its application of it, it's almost negligible. Hasn't grasped it. Let me consolidate the point on that. Matthew 24 we just dealt with, and the word here is very stubborn. Very stubborn. So come with me to Matthew 28. Matthew 28, and we will take verse 19. He had schooled his disciples, trained them for 3.5 years. Now he's sending out his students to do what? To teach other people. Those who know must tell those who don't know. So he's saying, and Yahshua came up, I'm reading verse 18 first, and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in the Shemahim, in the heaven and the earth. Therefore, go and instruct all nations. How many nations? All nations, immersing them, baptizing them in my name. That's information. Go out and teach all the nations and baptize them in my name. How do you comprehend that now? The church should be asking for comprehension. Most churches you go to and they conduct baptism, you hear the pastor say, I shall now baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Holy Spirit is not a ghost. Moreover, these are titles. Titles. He says, baptize them in my name. What's his name? Yahshua. He said, I have come in my Father's name. What's his Father's name? Well, Moses had asked him that question, and he told Moses, my name is Yud Vav He. Yud Vav He. That's my name. And we translate that in its consonants to mean Yahweh. So Yahshua is coming in his Father's name, and Yeshua in Hebrew means salvation. Yahshua. So Yah is salvation. And when he ascended, he made it known to us that, listen, I must go now, but I'll send the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, who will come in my name. So Father, Son, and the Ruach has the same name. So when you get baptized, you baptize in the name of Yeshua. Here it is. And we see no evidence to the contrary where the disciple baptized in another name. So we're still dealing with that comprehension. Give me understanding, says the king. And Yahshua, because you did not ask for long life or wealth, I'll give you all of that. Why? You've got to understand what's happening here. As you trace the passage of Matthew 13, he tells them what should happen. He says, the sower went forth to sow, and he sows a seed. He's a sower. And he himself, he said, I'm going to spend 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The first thing a seed does when you plant it, it dies. Then it begins to grow. It sprouts. And so he's teaching them a lesson that they have not grasped. He said, a seed, I am the seed being planted. The sower went forth to sow. And 3 days after, remember he died on Passover, the sowing of a seed. And he rose when? On first fruits. First fruits. And if you understand anything about a Passover, you will know that the sheaf, the wave sheaf, had to be waved. He's the wave sheaf. So that first crop, you take a sheaf out of it and you wave it. And if the first crop is fit, you examine it and see if it's fit. Then the rest of the harvest can be harvested. So when he rose on just after Sabbath, but Miriam went on Sunday morning to see him. So he was the first fruit. And she tried to get near to him. He said, don't touch me, because I have not yet ascended to my Father. My Father has to examine the fact that all that I did and see was okay. And if it's okay, then the rest of the harvest. So 50 days after he rose, what did we have? In the book of Acts, chapter 2, we have the Feast of Pentecost, which means that is the rest of the harvest. The rest of the harvest. And so he is revealing himself through the feast days, and the church is saying we don't keep it. So he's coming back on the Feast of Fruits in the autumn. That's when he's coming back. And so we have got to understand that. Again, he tells them that he came to Bethany 6 days before the Passover. That is in John chapter 12. And the next day being that day we call Palm Sunday. And 6 days from that day, which was a Sabbath, he came to Bethany, took us to Thursday, and Thursday was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, meaning that it was a Sabbath, an annual Sabbath. So he was crucified on a Wednesday. The church teaches that he was crucified on Friday. We're still dealing with the issue of comprehension, because if you don't comprehend it, you are not going to have the wisdom to apply it. You're not going to do that. When we go to Exodus chapter 16, we're made to understand that the children of Israel had gotten to the wilderness of Sin on the 15th day of the second month, meaning that they had been traveling for 30 days. And they started to cry out for food, for flesh. Yah said, I'm not going to give you any flesh. I want to give you manna. Manna from it. They said, we want flesh. He says, all right, I'll give you flesh this last time. On the evening of the 15th, 30 days into their journey, they have not yet gotten to Mount Sinai. Remember that. He says, tomorrow morning, being the first day of the week, you're going to go out and get manna. And for 6 days, you're going to collect it, but don't collect any on the 7th day. So we know 15 and 6 is 21. So the 22nd would be a Sabbath, and the 15th is a Sabbath. So all we have to do now is count backwards on the calendar, because there are only 30 days in their journey. So if you count from when they left, according to Numbers chapter 33 and verse 3, they left on the day of unleavened bread, which was on a Thursday. If you count all the way back and you come to when they left Egypt, you see they left Egypt on a Thursday and the Passover was on a Wednesday. The church still teaches that he was crucified on Friday. If we go to Matthew chapter 12, and if we start reading at verse 38, he makes it clear. He said, they asked him for a sign. He said, I'll not give you any sign at all except the sign of Jonah. Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish. So if Yahshua here is likening himself to Jonah the prophet, and Jonah spent 3 days and 3 nights in the fish, and Yahshua only spent 1 night, it's not consistent. Not consistent at all. So what we have done, and the churches, is they have adumbrated the gospel. That's what they've done. Given it in partial form. That's what they've done. And so We have long thought that slavery was over, but the change seemed to be on the mind, seemed to be on the mind. And so let's go back to where we started in Kings chapter 3. That's Melakin. Melakin chapter 3. And let's look at verse 16. Then two women, whores, prostitutes, came to the sovereign, came to Solomon, and stood before him. And one woman said, "O my master, this woman and I dwell in the same house. And I gave birth while she was in the house, and it came to be the third day after I had given birth that this woman also gave birth, and we were together. There was no one else with us in the house, only the two of us in the house. Then the woman's son died in the night because she lay on him. And she rose up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side, while your female servant slept, and laid him in her bosom, and laid her dead son in my bosom. And I rose up in the morning and to nurse my son, and saw he was dead. But I looked at him closely in the morning, and saw he was not my son whom I had born. It's not my son." You know, mothers, they have this proclivity. They have this inclination. They have this thing that nobody else has. This feeling. They can enter into the subjective world of their child. They can, because Yah had gifted them that way. They have this supernatural intuition. They have it. And so this mother here says, "It's not my child that is dead. This woman swapped the child while I was sleeping." So they went to King Solomon. They want to ascertain who the child is. And so Solomon here, filled with the Ruach, filled with understanding and wisdom. In Proverbs, we're told, in all you're getting, get understanding. Get it. You can go on the computer and you go on the internet and you can pull down reams of information. And people do that and run away believing they have truth. No. Understand what you read. Comprehend it. Then you'll be able to apply it. How many of us buy machinery, whether it's a washing machine or whether it's a car? They give you a manual, do they not? And we know how to switch them on. But how many of us understand how to fix them? If your head gasket went on your car and oil was seeping out, you have a manual. Would you be able to fix that? Your wheel bearing causing vibration in the wheels. Would you know? You have the information in the manual. You need the wisdom to apply the giftedness that Yah has given you. Solomon has that. So they came to King Solomon. And he here has to judge on it. He says, You say the child is yours, and she says the child is hers. The best way to apportion justice is to cut the child in two. And so he asked his men, get me a sword. Get me a sword. And immediately, the woman whose child it was said, no, 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 don't do that. Can a mother's love cease toward the child she bears? Oh, don't do that. The woman whose child it was said, give the child to the other woman. She doesn't want her child killed. King Solomon said, you are the mother. Give the child to her. The other one is a liar. She slept on her child and killed her. So we understand that, and that often is spoken of from the pulpit, and we leave it there. We leave it there. What is it teaching us? What is our understanding of it? What is our comprehension of that? Remember, our subject is the wisdom of sovereign Yahshua. So come with me now to the book of Ezekiel. And we're going to take chapter 23, and we're going to dilate a little on this. So stay with me. Stay with me, because what is clear, is that for those who have patently misunderstood the nature of the kingdom, that is the covenant of Yah, and they have adjured or rejected the festivals, as I indicated earlier, they have adumbrated the importance of obedience to Yah. They have. So, chapter 23 of Ezekiel, and the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, daughters of one mother. Did you get me? There were two women, daughters of one mother, and they whored in Mitzrayim. They were prostitute in Israel. And they did that from their youth. There their breasts were handled and their maiden nipples were squeezed. Yah is becoming graphic here because he wants you not to miss the message. And their names were Aholah, the elder, and Oholibah, her sister, and they were mine, and they bore sons and daughters, and their names, Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem is Aholibah. These two cities are here given genders. And we read earlier in chapter 3 of 1 King of two prostitutes. We see two prostitutes here. And the one woman slept on her son and killed him. So if we have understanding, we have to ascertain which woman this is prophetically. We have the information, but we now need the comprehension. Who is this woman? Moreover, in Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 15, why is Rachel crying? A lot of questions are emerging here, and we have to do justice to them. So, which child died? Of course, we know the Messiah died. Where did he come from? The tribe of Judah. He's from the tribe of Judah. So if the child of Judah died, why is Rachel crying? Rachel is the mother of Joseph and Benjamin. You understand that in the context of Ezekiel chapter 37. Israel is one stick. And Yah said, those dry bones, those dead bones, you see, I'm going to revive them to one stick. The tribe of Judah and the tribe of Ephraim, I'm going to make them one stick. But more than that, Joseph went to Egypt and he married a North African woman. And he had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And we read in chapter 48 of Genesis that when Jacob was about to die, he called those two boys, put his hand on them, and blessed them. He said, let my name, what name? Israel. Remember, his name had been changed earlier by Yahshua. Let my name be on them. So Ephraim and Manasseh are Israelites by way of adoption. Remember, people look at this and they say, well, they're all children of Israel. Yes. But not all of them were given that blessing. Just as Esau did not get the blessing of Jacob, the rest of the tribe did not get that blessing. So when they were taken out of the land of Israel in 722 by the Assyrian and never came back, the name of the place was changed to the land of Judah when the Romans ruled it. It cannot be Israel until they come back. So when you see Operation Moses, Operation Joshua, and Operation Solomon, and the heel lift all the way from Ethiopia coming back to Israel, you understand what is happening. I got to round them back up. Can these bones live? Yes, they can. So Judah lay on his son and killed him. It was Judah, the Jews, who took the Messiah and hand him over to the Romans to be impaled on a tree. Is it not? The scripture says. Because at that time, Israel was in captivity. So Solomon says, bring me a sword. You understand prophetically what he's talking about, don't you? Because we read in the book of Hebrews that the sword is the word of Yah, a double-edged sword. So that's what we use to cut things to the quick. And so what we're doing this morning is cutting away the cobweb from the existential understanding of Yah's word so we can glean clearly what is being said and gives you an understanding of how wrongly some of these things are being taught in the churches. How wrongly. Year after year. It was only a few days ago that the people said that it was Yeshua's birthday, and they had Christ's Mass, a Mass for Christ. That's what they did. We know that he was born on the 15th day of the 7th month, the Feast of Tabernacle. Round about the 31st of December, that's next week, the people are going to be going to church and they're going to be singing, I wish you a happy new year. Because in their mind, the 1st of January is a new year. We better go to Exodus, don't we? Come with me to the book of Exodus, Shemot. Shemut. And let's look at chapter 12. Chapter 12 of Exodus. Even as we realize there's a second Exodus taking place. Exodus chapter 12, and start at verse 1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this month, which month? The month of Nisan, the month of Abib. This month is the beginning of month for you. It is the first month of the year for you. This month, the month of Nisan. Now, if the month of Nisan is the first month of the year, then Kislev, this month they call December, is the 9th month, not the 12th month. We're on the Hebrew calendar. Why? Because we are students. We are disciples. We follow our teachers' teachings. We're not dealing with the multitude right now. No. We're not dealing with the multitude. He said, I'm not speaking to the multitude. They just want it free. They come for food. That's what he said. They only follow me for bread and fish. But I'm giving them information and I'm giving them understanding so that they can use the wisdom to apply it to their daily life. That's what he's done. To us, I'll give you manna. We say, no, we want hard-boiled bread. No, I'll give you manna. But you see, we are so encased in our traditions that we go to church each week and repeat the same traditions. So we receive the truth as a dogma, but not as a truism, because we don't even know why it's true. He says, no, I will speak to them in parables. Because so that they might hear. And if they hear and come, I will have to heal them. Let's assume that I assume that you want something and I give it to you. But you didn't want it. I have violated my integrity by doing that. Freedom of choice says each man has a right to decide. But I assumed that you want something, you were in need of something, and I gave it to you, but you didn't want it. You see, when we talk about integrity, what do we mean? If you have integrity, you have to be integrated. Mean, whatever you speak is what you do. Your thoughts and your deeds are integrated. You are a person of integrity. My word is my bond. If I'm saying I'm coming today, I'm coming, because there is no difference between my spoken theology and my lived religion. Yahshua says those who don't do that, they're hypocrites. So you're not integrated. So if I give you something that you didn't want, I'm imposing on you. And then be responsible for your response. So he says, the multitude, they don't want it like the disciples. He said, you will find me, but you will have to search for me. Seek, and you will find. From the very morning of the history of creation, Yah gave man freedom of choice. And he doesn't take that away. All he does, he says, if you walk this way, you'll be all right. But if you take the other way, you're walking into a lake of fire. That fire that is at the Musmus there, you're walking into it. There are blessings and there are cursing. Choose life. Choose life. And so, above everything else, what we need is understanding. Even the fool and his money will soon depart if he doesn't understand it. How many people wake up and they bought the stocks, but they didn't know that it had diminished so much that they don't even have money now to pay the broker to sell it. They don't know. And so Yahshua, he wants us to know that a good teacher, an effective, efficient teacher, is one who is able to demonstrate their craft by bringing about intended learning outcomes. That's a good teacher. What is your intent for your student? And what are the outcomes? You see, a man can be efficient or he can be effective, but not efficient. You want an effective, efficient teacher. Effectiveness simply means meeting your objectives. For example, let's say I wanted to build a house, and I get an architect, I get a builder, and I say to them, listen, I want you to build me a 5-bedroom house, 3 garages. And I want you to build it in 6 months, and it must not cost more than $2 million. They said to me, fine, we'll do that. Nine months later, I go to look at the house with my accountant. And the house that was intended to be finished in 6 months is not yet finished. And we have gone over budget. The house is now costing $2.5 million. They are effective in that they're on schedule to meet their objective, but they're not efficient. They're not efficient. Input for output. No, they're not efficient. It should have lasted 6 months. And so you need a teacher who sees beyond the cloud, who can think round corners. The great sovereign Yahshua, he's saying, you see that woman, the Queen of Sheba, that went to see Solomon? She's going to stand up in this generation and condemn you. Why? Because she went to Solomon to see and to seek after wisdom, and one greater than Solomon is here, and you won't even come. One greater than Solomon. She traveled from Ethiopia to Jerusalem. Sometimes people say, well, you know, the church is too far. And you know, I can't travel through this traffic. And my question is, how far is it from Pilate's house to Calvary? That's where he carried that patibulum on his shoulder to be crucified so that you can live. And he died for us. That's so far. And so we don't like anything that is going to cost us anything. We like to stretch out our hands. But when it's time for giving, it's a clenched fist. You know, in the kingdom, Yah is more about giving than receiving. the rich young ruler came to him, and what must I do to have eternal life? It's as if he was talking to the billionaire at that time. He says, sell all that you have and give it to the poor. And the words of the man went away. How? Where I come from, if we speak in parabolic language, in vexed. He's vexed. He went away sorrowfully. Are you with me? And Zacchaeus, come out of that tree. I'm coming to your house for tea. And immediately Zacchaeus realized what his entrance into his house would be. He said, you know what? He starts to confess. He is in turmoil now. He is in trouble with his own conscience. He said, I will return all that I have taken from others. All that I have taken. In the kingdom, it's about giving, not receiving. It is better to give than to receive. Because when you're giving, you're in a better position than the person who's receiving. And Yah said, when you give, I'll give you more. I'll give you more. So let us understand that the instructional objectives that have been given to us in the scriptures, it's good, but we must comprehend them and use the giftedness of the wisdom that he has given to us so that we can apply them to our own lives. May we take note of that and understand what he is saying to us, because we ask and we thank him. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen.